Hey, what up, y'all? I'm your host, Will. Welcome back to Fandom Frequency, where we get into the entire multiverse of pop culture, if you will. Movies, comic books, anime, wrestling, everything in between. We talk about it around here on the channel. So make sure you're clicking all those buttons below the video. We do appreciate all your support and all those new subscribers that have been coming in lately over the last several weeks. Thanks for joining the community, and we want to discuss all this nerdy stuff with you. So make sure you're dropping in the comments, and don't be shy, man. We accept all points of view around here, and we're very, very inclusive in that way. But today, it's a little bit late, but better late than never. We're talking about Fallout Season 1, the latest video game adaptation out there in the world. And for some context and some background on myself as a Fallout fan or non-Fallout fan, I essentially was not a fan of Fallout. I still have not played a single game in the series. It's been out since I think PS2 era, if I'm not mistaken. And then PS3 is really where it took off with Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and then there was Fallout 76, and then Fallout 4, which I think were a bit more middling and not quite as satisfying to some of those hardcore Fallout fans out there. And I actually did download on for the PlayStation Network thing since I upgraded last year or something like that. After I got the PS5, I actually downloaded Fallout 4. So by the time you guys see me covering Fallout again, or potentially doing a full game review, who knows, but I am going to jump into the games and check out that side of the world and see how it goes to create your own character and really immerse yourself and see what they changed, what they kept the same in certain aspects and things of that nature. But I had no knowledge of this game at all going into this series. I just heard some of the early hype from critics and whatnot saying that they absolutely love this series. They showed the first 3 or 4 episodes or something like that, and the critics seemed to love it. All the fans that's had the early access to it seemed to really dig it, and it was getting a lot of hype, and it got so much hype that Amazon Prime decided to drop the entire full season a week and a half ago on Amazon Prime. So it dropped a couple weekends ago, and I was able to binge it over the course of that weekend and into this previous week here. And now we are here discussing all the spoilers, recapping all the stuff that I can remember from watching it, but getting into some of my general thoughts on it before we get into all the full-on spoiler and all of the lore and some of the stuff like that. Just giving you my overall thoughts, so some of you that haven't maybe checked out the series yet that want to get convinced to do so can stick around for this portion, kind of the non-spoiler portion. I loved this series for the most part. It wasn't perfect by any means. It definitely had some shortcomings to it, but the end had such a great payoff, such a great setup, and such an awesome world that I just can't wait to explore more of, with some very interesting and well-written characters to go along with it that were brilliantly acted by this cast. Some of them are people that you've seen before in film and TV for a while. Other ones are kind of up-and-comers, or just younger actors that have been around since being a child and things like Hannah Montana, but haven't quite blown up yet, like Moises Arias, who plays the younger brother, Hank McClane, to Ella Purnell's character of Lucy. Those are kind of your main protagonists of this thing, right next to Walton Goggins' character of the Ghoul. And without giving all the big spoiler details in that, because you're not quite sure where where the Ghoul and where his character lies in the early parts of the season, but you quickly, or not quickly, but over the course of the season, you begin to learn what his motivations are and where he plays into all this and how he plays a very important piece to the puzzle of the post-apocalyptic world that is Fallout, because essentially it's all a big nuclear fallout between us and several other countries and all this vault business trying to get into creating these safe places for wealthy people to go and retreat to after nuclear warfare breaks out in this alternate timeline of the 50s. And when it does, shit gets crazy. But I gotta say, the writing and directing on this show is so well done, man. Like, the characters are so well realized, and the world is so contradictory to itself without feeling like it's frustrating or feeling like it's not well thought out. It has this really old school 50s, 60s vibe to it, even in the music and some of the set design and things like that in the vaults. And outside of that, just with the soundtrack and the score and whatnot. But it also finds a way to feel very futuristic and modern at the same time, without ever feeling like it conflicts with the tone of the old school kind of old Hollywood that they're going for. And it all works very, very well in tandem together. And the tone is so fucked up and serious, but also so funny and dark at the same time. And the way they're able to kind of just jump back and forth between both of those vibes in this show so seamlessly is very impressive, and I really, really dug it. I love how I just had fucked up Sam Raimi Evil Dead levels of just gore going on without getting too gratuitous or too over the top or too much into the shock value like some of the more not so well done moments of another Amazon Prime show, The Boys. One of my favorite shows on TV, but I do feel like sometimes they do harp on the shock factor of everything and don't focus on the story, where this show always stays focused on the story and the characters in the world that they're creating for us as the audience to get immersed into and to want to be immersed in and to be completely invested in. So they really do achieve that very well in this series. And like I said, when it comes to those characters, I love the characters. Like the main character of Lucy, who's really the lead of the show, played by Ella Purnell. She does such a great job at portraying the naive and good-hearted nature of her character, and the way that her character is able to evolve over the course of the show when she goes up to the surface and has to deal with all these fucked up, lawless characters is so well realized and so well done. And the whole fish out of water aspect is something that we've traditionally seen many times over before, whether it's Thor in the Marvel Universe, tons of other movies, man, over the years, Starman with freaking, what's his name? Jeff Bridges, all those kind of things, and everywhere in between in all the different decades. It's great the way they're able to implement that here in the sense of where she's stuck in time in an old previous time, 200 years prior, way in the 50s. And when she comes up to the surface, everything has evolved and changed beyond her. So she has to adapt to these surroundings. But the way that they write this character, she actually does so and drops a little bit of that act, not that act, but kind of gets more acclimated to the way people conduct themselves on the surface and is able to get more badass and more rough around the edges when she needs to, and is able to make those tough decisions and do the things that she needs to do to survive in this fucked up world that she was essentially brought up to go to essentially save. But even when all the real reveals and everything comes to light and she really learns the truth of where she comes from and what all this is really about, it's really truly devastating. And the way she's able to play it, Ella Purnell does an amazing job as the character of Lucy, and I can't wait to see the adventure she gets on in season 2 and beyond. And I am gonna definitely be following this actress's career for the rest of it because she was phenomenal. She played smart, funny, sexy, scared, badass, and vulnerable and emotional, all in the same thing. So I'm definitely going to have my eyes peeled on everything she does moving forward in all her projects because Ella Purnell is definitely a great find. But I also don't want to distract from my boy Walton Goggins as the Ghoul. He does such a great job as well, bringing that southern drawl, bringing that cowboy outlaw energy to that side of the character. But when you get to see the character in the flashbacks and learn more about him and what formed him into where he's at that point 200 years in the future, he also plays that side of the character flawlessly as well. And some of those elements, the way he's able to bring that to life was so well done. And I don't want to give away all the goodies here, but man, it's so well done. Walton Goggins plays so many different emotional sides of the character, but just brings that badass energy you know him to do from different things like The Hateful Eight and other things like that. So really great to see him here and really get him to see a chance to shine and kind of be the co-lead of the show in a sense too. So that was kind of dope. And then you get to see Aaron Clifton coming in as Maximus. I thought that character for me had a little bit of issues to the way they were writing the character, but overall, I thought he played the character very well. And he had good chemistry with Lucy and other characters on screen in the show. So I do want to give the actor props. He was great. I just thought some of the writing made him a bit annoying and harder to root for or get behind. But by the end of the season, you really do get a better sense of what drives him and why he is the way he is. And overall, you do definitely get a lot more on the side of the character, and you're definitely rooting for him, and you definitely want to see him achieve his goals and get through this crazy world one way or another. So you definitely get invested in Maximus by the end of it, but I thought some of the road to get there and the writing was a little clunky, but overall, good character, and I'm going to be very curious to see where he goes from here. And then you got Kyle MacLachlan's character of Hank McClane as the father of Lucy, and Moises Arias' character of Norm McClane as the younger brother, and everything like that. And those two actors, Kyle MacLachlan or something like that. Kyle MacLachlan and Moises Arias, they do a great job with their characters as well, and really bringing all these different dimensions to their performance and the way that their journey continuously is growing and evolving their characters. They were actually two of the most interesting characters to me, even though one is seen a lot more than the other, obviously, if you've seen the show. the way both of the characters are brought to life, I thought was really good, and getting to see the turn that one of them makes by the end of the thing, I thought was really interesting. And also the cliffhanger of where one of the characters is left by the end of season 1 is going to be very interesting and very unpredictable to see where they're going to go down the line as well. So really, really enjoy that aspect of those characters, and both of those characters are really, really cool. Then you got the character of Moldaver, played by Sarita Corduroy. She was really, really great in the show as well. Plays a really, really interesting part. You had Leslie Uggams coming up in here as Betty. And for those that might not recognize that name, that is the actress that plays Blind Al over there in the first 2 Deadpool movies, and is going to be coming back in Deadpool 3, aka Deadpool and Wolverine, to get into a little bit of cocaine action, if you will. So it's going to be interesting to see what she does in that film. But she does a great job as a character of Betty, and kind of playing that role of where you're not sure what side she's really on, and giving away some of that sinister vibe, but also giving away some of that nurturing, warm vibe at the same time, to where you're conflicted and not sure where the character's going to go. And I really like the way she's able to keep us as the audience on our toes like that, and the way that the writing really, really brings it together too. So this is a really kick-ass show overall, and the way they're able to adapt a lot of the elements from the games that I have kind of done some research on after the fact, and the way they're able to bring in the Pit Boy and all these different elements into the show in such a seamless way without feeling like it's something that goes way over my head as a non-fan is so well done. That's something that Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City a few years ago wasn't able to achieve fully throughout adapting the first 2 Resident Evil games into something that all fans from all walks of life can enjoy fully, and that's why we didn't quite get the franchise juice that we needed on that one. Still haven't seen the whole film, but from what I saw and what I heard, it doesn't quite all come together in the same way that Fallout does, or the same way The Last of Us with HBO Max a year or so ago also did. So that's one of the things here that I think is so awesome. The way they're able to tell a similar but an original story with original characters, building off of the lore and building off of certain things that are in the games verbatim. And a lot of that lore is brought in here seamlessly and set up in a way to where everything gets enough writing and enough time to develop, and enough dimensions in it to where you get an understanding of where these things of why these things are the way they are in this world, and you get a sense of the history, and that there is a real lived-in history to this world, because it's been around for 200 some years in this post-apocalyptic environment that these characters are set in, and the world and the way that this setting is. And you really do feel the weight and the drama and the dread of the things that happened before, and some of the hopelessness that is felt early on in this. You really do get a sense of that eeriness and that atmosphere that I'm sure is very palpable in the games when you play and explore through the world. So you really get a sense of that through the character of Lucy as she comes to the surface, and as they explore these different corners of the world, and these different factions that come out always adds a different flavor of different characters and different things going on in the world. And very much I love that about post-apocalyptic stories. So that really works well here. I really thoroughly enjoyed this show. If you haven't seen it already, you need to get out and go watch that thing. I'm going to definitely give this show an 8.5 out of 10. I absolutely love this show, and it was just short of a 9 because I did think they kind of kept a little more of the main story points a little bit too close to the end of the show. It had a little bit too much of a bit of a, not filler isn't the right word, but felt like they were kind of just meandering around and kind of exploring things as opposed to moving the story forward as well as it was in the first few episodes. So that's one of my only criticisms of the show. But where we end up and how the story ends and how it unfolds and what it sets up potentially for the future is super dope, super exciting, and very well done. So I don't want to knock this show too hard, because this is definitely one of the best video game adaptations of all time, if not top 3, top 5 at least, top 10 easy. And it's one of the best shows on Amazon Prime for sure that I've watched, and I think a lot of you out there are going to definitely enjoy. So now we're going to get into a few spoilers before I wrap this thing up. And the whole thing is here with Kyle MacLachlan's character being the big bad, being the one that actually bombed Shadyside and bombed the place that they were supposed to be developing Vault 30, was it 32 for? Yeah, no, 31. Yeah, Vault 31, the way that they were prepping this vault to go save Shadyside, even though it had been bombed years earlier, because that's where Maximus is from, and that's where he was found by the Brotherhood, because all his people got wiped out, and that explains his whole backstory. And all of these characters are tied together in this world, and in this conflict, and all plays a part. And obviously with the character of the Ghoul, for those of you that have seen the show and are watching this portion, know that he's also Cooper from back in the day, the original spokesperson and one of the main people spearheading this program or getting money into the program, along with his wife, who is literally working and developing and negotiating this program in the begin with, and understands and fully is on board with all the nefarious and fucked up plans of Vault Tech and all the corporations going all in on these vaults to become big business in this nuclear, in this astro, in this post-Gojira world that they're all trying to create here. And it's really, really crazy, man, the way that all that stuff comes into play. And the way that they're able to seamlessly reveal all this information in the last episode or so is so fucking impressive. It doesn't feel like it's thrown in there last minute. It all feels like it makes sense, and it all was well written and baked into the storyline. And I feel like thinking back on it even now as I review it and I'm talking to y'all, I can see how all these story elements play together and was there from the beginning in ways that maybe you could have pieced these things together even before the reveal comes. Really makes the reveal that much more impactful and that much more well done. So I absolutely really dug that. And the way that Lucy learns the truth about her mother, going to this new place and getting bombed by her father and killed along with Maximus and all the people in his community. And the last bit of survivors in this new, more peaceful environment and peaceful kind of collective of people, if you will, a la Last of Us 2, like Last of Us with Wyoming and stuff. The way that this is kind of like one of the last few sophisticated places where people are really there helping each other out and have each other's best interest in mind. That was all taken away by Lucy's father, and the way that all comes to a head and the way that her mother was kept alive is this like mutated, almost like zombified carcass still kept around, and how Lucy ends up having to shoot her to put her out of her own misery. Oh man, it's just so fucked up and dark, but just so well done and emotional, and you really feel the weight of it, and just the way they're able to reveal all this at the end and make it all make sense with Moldaver being there from the beginning, surviving for these 200 years without getting all mutated out and everything, and leading her own Firefly-esque kind of group to kind of bring things back to prominence and get this cold fusion so they can end up giving renewable energy to the world and getting things back to the way they were. I thought was just such beautiful storytelling, and the way they were able to weave this all in was so well done, so good. I cannot wait for Fallout Season 2. But what says you, for those of you that stuck around for the spoiler recap portion? Let me know what you thought about all the reveals and all the stuff. And if you know all the corners and everything about the games, let me know how you felt about the way they adapted all these elements and made this new original story around it. Let me know what you thought about it. I can't wait to get into more dope content with y'all. After my little Vegas trip, we're going to be getting a lot more X-Men review content back on. Along with the X-Men 97 reviews, we're doing all 18 installments of the live-action X-Men review, X-Men Fox franchise leading into Deadpool and Wolverine. So make sure you stay tuned. In the month of May, we're going to have reviews for that every single week, leading into June and July and beyond. We got Planet of the Apes coming around the corner. I got a spoiler review for Abigail coming real soon as well. Plenty of content to come on the channel. So make sure you stay tuned, you don't sleep, and I'm going to catch y'all around here real soon. Peace.